Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Victoria. If you haven't been here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today I'm going a little bit deeper into ovulation, understanding your fertile window, how to track ovulation, and a couple misconceptions. I think it's super important to track the actual day that you ovulate in order to understand your cycle and health as a whole. So as always, grab yourself a cute little drink and let's get into it. Okay, so first up, and this is a very important key fact, which I didn't necessarily understand fully until I was an adult woman in my early 20s. You cannot get pregnant any day of the month. You have what is called a fertile window, and that is the time surrounding when your body ovulates or when your body releases an egg. The time that you can get pregnant is only between your period and ovulation. It is, of course, a smaller window than that. Ovulation typically occurs around day 14, and that is if you have a 28-day cycle. My cycle right now is closer to 31, 32 days, so I'm actually ovulating. Let me check my app. It looks like this month I ovulated on day 18. So don't take day 14 as Bible, okay? You have to understand your own specific cycle in order to understand the day that you ovulate. Just as a general reminder, day 1 of your cycle is considered the first day of your period. So the day you start bleeding is called day number 1. About 2 weeks after you start your period is when you're probably going to ovulate. And then once you do ovulate, your egg is only going to last between 12 and 36 hours once it's released. After that 24 to 36 hour mark, the egg is no longer going to be viable and it won't be able to be fertilized. Now, a woman's fertile window is not just that 24 hours exactly after your egg is released. Our fertile window is actually longer because of the amount of time that sperm can survive inside of a fertile woman. So sperm can typically live up to 5 days inside the female body. And I say a fertile female body because your pH, your temperature, hormones, these all play roles into how well the sperm can actually survive and essentially swim to where it needs to get to in order to fertilize an egg. So your fertile window is actually saved. It's not just those 24 hours, it's actually saved because of how long sperm can last in your body, which is pretty cool that God didn't say, hey, you got 1 day to get pregnant every month. You can look at this 2 ways. Right now, I'm gonna speak kind of from my personal experience. Right now, I am actually almost a year married. In 6 days, I'm gonna be a year into my marriage with my husband Ryan. We are currently trying to prevent pregnancy. We do not want to have kids yet. So the general guideline that we use, I'm not on birth control. I don't have an IUD. I don't like to mess with my natural hormone pattern in that way. So what we do is use protection for like 5, really more like 7 to 10 days before I know I'm going to ovulate, just because I really don't want to be pregnant right now. So we are extra cautious when we do have sex in my fertile window. We just wrap it up. We use a condom. No big deal. And then after I ovulate and after I've confirmed that I've ovulated, we don't need to use protection again until my next cycle comes around. If you are trying to conceive, if you've been trying to conceive for a while, you've probably already done all this research yourself. I like to be cognizant of journeys that women go through. Infertility is a really hard thing to walk through, and it is honestly quite common. I know a lot of women who are struggling with infertility. I just hear that it can be really frustrating when a woman is unable to conceive for a long period of time and they're just bombarded with like all of this information and people trying to tell them that they know what is best. That's not what this video is. This is like a starter course for women who are just trying to learn more about their bodies. That being said, if you are trying to conceive, then you really want to start trying, aka start having sex, like 5 days before you think you're gonna ovulate. And I keep saying think you're gonna ovulate because you really can't confirm ovulation until after it's happened. But I will give you some tips on how to kind of tell that you're nearing ovulation. You obviously don't want to wait until the day that you ovulate to start trying for conception, because by then the egg will only be viable for those 24 hours. Only a few sperm actually make it to the egg by the time it needs to be fertilized, and sperm kind of just like hang out on your inside, in your uterus, in your fallopian tubes. They're trying to get as close to the egg as possible. The more sperm sperm that are there before you ovulate, the better chance you have of getting pregnant. Just the cold hard facts. So again, personally, because I'm not trying to get pregnant, we start using condoms about 3 days after my period ends, because that would be around day 8 for me, thinking maybe this month I'm gonna ovulate on day 14, then I'm giving myself that like 6 days of extra coverage. We're just being extra cautious. Okay, a couple misconceptions about ovulation and your fertile window. I noticed while doing some research just on Google, some of the most asked questions on Google about conception is if there's a best like sexual position for conceiving. As far as I know, I have not read in any of my books that there is a good position that allows a better chance of sperm reaching its final destination. There's no scientifically proven best way to have sex if you're trying to get pregnant. Another misconception is that the semen, when every time I sit down to film these videos, I'm like, am I being so inappropriate? But I'm not. I'm using biological terms. This is anatomy. Anyway, when a male ejaculates, the semen is not being shot straight into your cervix, okay? It is just being pulled into your vagina. When you're fertile, your cervical fluid is really good for sperm to swim in. You know, like the little swimmers? They swim, they like actually do like a little swimming thing. They actually make their way up into the cervix, up through the uterus, and then out through the fallopian tubes. So that's kind of why, let me try to find this. This is a crazy fact. Sperm are ejaculated at 28 miles per hour. That's so fast. 28 miles per hour, they come shooting out, and then they move at 5 millimeters a minute, which that's, I mean, you think about like a centimeter being that big. 5 millimeters is not very much. We're moving quite slowly, but it's a journey. Like from your cervix through your uterus up to your fallopian tube, that's a journey, okay? Depending on your anatomy and the speed of the sperm, don't quote me on that, that might not be a real thing. It can take 2 to 7 hours for sperm to actually make it to your fallopian tube for fertilization. And then they kind of latch on to your fallopian tubes, and the sperm kind of just hang out there until the day that you ovulate. So your egg actually is released and sperm fertilize right there. Okay, I'm gonna get right into how to track your ovulation. I believe that all women in their reproductive years should be tracking their ovulation. Our hormone cycle has such an impact on our day-to-day life, and once you start to pick up on these subtle changes of your hormone pattern, then you start to understand your body better, and you can appreciate and love the way that your body was made, and even start to plan your life around your cycle. And if you're at all interested in this, I would recommend going and watching some of my other videos on women's health. I do go into a lot of detail into every phase. I think I still have to film a luteal phase video, but all the other phases are up, as well as a general overview video for your menstrual cycle. But right now I wanted to give you 3 simple ways to track and pinpoint your ovulation. Number 1 is to track your basal body temperature. This is done by using a different thermometer than just like a regular pharmacy thermometer. You need to make sure you're getting a basal body thermometer, and you want to be taking your temperature every single morning before you get out of bed. Like before you even roll over, before you sit up in bed, you need to take your temperature. And then if you track your temperature throughout your cycle, you'll notice that there will be a day around when you would expect to ovulate that your temperature increases by about half a degree. And then if you have truly ovulated, your temperature will stay elevated after you ovulate until your period comes again, and your temperature will drop. So if your temperature does stay high, you can then confirm ovulation as the day before your temperature increased. What happens during that temperature increase is progesterone starts to get released. So to go into a little bit of detail, your egg is maturing inside what is called a follicle, and then as soon as your egg is released by the follicle, that old follicle turns into something called a corpus luteum, and the corpus luteum is what is releasing progesterone. Progesterone increases your body temperature, hence the increase in temperature after you've ovulated. My husband's calling me. How to track your ovulation, your fertile window. Anyway, like I said, one way to track your temperature is to just get a thermometer. There are a lot of other products on the market right now that will track your body temperature for you. One example, which is probably the most well known, is Natural Cycles, and you can pair Natural Cycles with the newer Apple Watch and the Oura Ring. If you're out in the world, you've probably seen someone wearing an Oura Ring. This is a much less involved way of tracking your temperature. I personally don't trust myself to wake up every single morning and take my temperature before I do anything else. I use the Ava bracelet. It's a less expensive solution to tracking your temperature. It is a watch, and I'll just grab it. Well, I say watch. It is a bracelet that looks just like this. This is actually not the original band it came with. Honestly, the plastic of the band is pretty cheap, but this band I got off of Amazon for, I don't know, $15, $20, and it's much better. During your sleep, you just wear it all night. You have to wear it for, I think, 4 consecutive hours of sleep in order for it to gather the data, and then you have to sync it every morning. So it is something that you have to do every morning, but at least it's not so dependent on like don't move at all. It gives me my cycle right there. There's another one called Temp Drop that I think wraps around your arm. I've never used that one. I don't know anyone that uses it, but it's just another version of the same thing. You sleep with it at night. I like Ava bracelet. I think the bracelet itself was about $250. The app is free. You don't have to pay for a subscription. If you want to use Natural Cycles, you could do it with the thermometer that they send you, but then you're paying I think like $60 to $80 a year for the Natural Cycles app. And then on top of that, if you want to get an Oura Ring, those are like $300 to $600, I think. Big note is that Natural Cycles is actually FDA cleared to be birth control. The Ava bracelet is meant to aid you in becoming pregnant. Ava bracelet is not branded as a birth control. I just want to put that disclaimer out there. I will say with the Ava bracelet, when the wrist strap was crappy and I had to replace it, not a big deal. I got it off Amazon. Once in a while, the app will just crash. I would just say it is a slightly cheaper option, and there are bugs. It's a smaller company than Natural Cycles. There are bugs in the app. I still think it's a really good option for like generally trying to track your cycle. Number 2, the second way to easily track your cycle is by paying attention to your body. Your cervix position will change. When you are bleeding, your cervix is going to be quite low. The closer you get to ovulation, the higher your cervix will get, and your cervix will also start to open, and that is to allow the sperm to get up into the cervix more easily. And then your cervical fluid will also start to change. So this is Period Power by Maisie Hill. I reference this book a lot. So after your period finishes, you experience a few days of feeling dry or being slightly moist, but the moisture evaporates within a few seconds of being exposed to air. Then this is followed by the production of cervical fluid that tends to be quite sticky, a bit like rubber cement, rubbery, springy, and relatively thick, a consistency that sperm would struggle to do their thing in. After that, and this is going to be your fertile window, comes cervical fluid that is increasing in its moisture content and fertile abilities. It's creamy, runny, and milky or lotion-like, and it can also feel quite cool at the opening of your vagina. This fluid is typically white and opaque. And then the most fertile mucus arrives. The magical stuff resembles raw egg white and is mega slippery and stretchy. It can stretch for several inches and may just fall out of you. So pay attention to what your cervical fluid feels like. Before you're fertile, the fluid that's like on your underwear at the end of the day will usually be like quite dried up in those couple days right after your period. And then as you get nearer to ovulation, that cervical fluid will actually leave your underwear feeling wet. And that's because it's like thicker, it's stretchier. That is the fertile fluid that sperm swim the best in, and that's kind of how you will get a hint that you're getting closer to ovulation. And then right after you ovulate, all of that will dry up and streaky again in your underwear. I think that's just an easy way to kind of think about it. Okay, a third pretty easy way to pinpoint your ovulation is by tracking your luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone is something that increases along with estrogen as you near ovulation, and then a peak in luteinizing hormone is what triggers your follicle to burst and actually release release that egg. That spike in LH also signals back to your body to start producing progesterone, which you'll want post-ovulation. So LH peaks 12 to 36 hours before ovulation, and you can use ovulation predictor kits to test your LH. Basically, I'll just grab one. I have one here. So I just buy a box of like 50 or 100 of these off of Amazon. It's easy at home, and then it comes with an app, or you have to download the app. The app is called Pre-Mom. It just looks like this. This is the package. Can you see it? And you open it up. I don't know if y'all remember COVID. I actually worked for one of the companies that was producing rapid COVID tests, and this is exactly what they looked like. It's called lateral flow diagnostics. I could tell you how this works if anyone's interested, but I probably won't because you guys are probably not interested in how this works. You pee in a little cup. I have a little cup I bought off Amazon that you can just, it has a handle and you hold it. You stick your little strip in. Let's see. That's what the strip looks like. So you stick your strip into the cup, your pee flows through the strip, you take the strip out of the cup, and then you leave it for like 7 to 15 minutes. You'll see a control line and you'll see your LH line. You're not just looking for 2 lines, you're looking at how dark that second line is, because if you start testing your LH like 5 days before you think you're gonna ovulate, it'll get darker and darker, and then it'll get really dark one day. The next day you'll go to pee on the stick and it will be much lighter, and you'll know, hey, my LH peaked yesterday, I'm probably ovulating today. And that's how LH strips work. If you combine all 3 of these methods together, here's what it would look like. You would be aware of what your cervical fluid feels like and looks like. So you'll finish your period and your cervical fluid will likely be quite dry, and then maybe 5 days after your period ends, you might start to see your cervical fluid get a little bit thicker, and then you're probably going to want to start testing your LH. Pee on the stick for a couple days. You'll slowly start to see that line get darker. You'll also see your cervical fluid become slippier, thicker, creamier, like egg white texture. And then you will see your LH peak, meaning you see a very dark line on your LH strip. And then the next day, if you have ovulated, you'll see a slightly lighter line, and this is probably the day you're ovulating. And then the next day after that, you will see that your temperature has increased by about 0.5 degrees, like half a degree Fahrenheit. You watch for your LH surge, you ovulate, your temperature increases, all in conjunction with noticing how your body feels. Your ovulation is not going to be on the same day of every cycle every month. This is why you actually have to track it. Having this knowledge of when you ovulate will give you so much power. Your energy's probably going to start to decrease after you ovulate. You should stop doing HIIT cardio after you ovulate, or it's going to start to actually spike cortisol in your body. You're probably going to find yourself wanting to nest more. You'll be more interested in the details. Watch my other videos for all of this kind of information. Other than that, support your cycle by eating a healthy, balanced diet. I will have videos coming on what you really should be eating during the different phases of your cycle. I actually already have a luteal phase meal prep video up on YouTube where I just talk about different things that are helpful to be eating during your luteal phase and kind of support your natural hormone cycle. Also, don't be concerned if you go to start trying to track and pinpoint your ovulation and you can't quite get it the first couple months, especially if you're going to get something like the Ava bracelet or the Aura ring, because they need to learn your body rhythms. You need to learn your body rhythms. Just keep at it. It does get easier, and it just comes part of your natural monthly routine. That is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching this. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and like the video. I would really, really appreciate that. I will see you next time. Bye!